The Canon R6 has had a lot of hype leading up to its release. With the EOS R leaving a lot of people wanting for more, the idea of a new, full-frame 20 megapixel sensor camera was cause for celebration. The R6 sits just below the flagship R5, but is aimed towards pros and enthusiasts alike. Is it worth the hype? Let's find out. The Canon R6 has a fantastic body design. It is very similar at a glance to an EOS R, but they've made a lot of improvements. A lot of the buttons and dials and things that you're used to seeing on the DSLR bodies have made its way into the mirrorless camera design. It's tactile, it feels good in the hands, and it's intuitive. We also get the Canon RF mount, which is a fantastic and versatile mount that has a really good lineup of lenses available. The body does have weather sealing. I actually shot out in the rain to shoot some of this test footage and it held up just fine. So the touch bar, which was on the EOS R, didn't get carried over in this model, but I don't think anyone will be missing it. The buttons and dials that have been replaced with it are much better. So the resolution on the viewfinder and the LCD on the R6 is lower than that of the R5, but it's still competitive for its class. This is a 3.68mm dot EVF. You get two UHS 2 SD card slots, which you can do proxy, overflow, and redundant recording. Finally, you get a new battery in this camera, which is the LPE6NH, which is 14% more efficient than the LPE6N. So in terms of photo for this camera, you really don't have anything to complain about. It's a 20 megapixel sensor, which is more than enough for most use. So if you're looking to do large format printing and you're going to be doing a lot of heavier cropping, then the R5 might be the way to go. Overall, the R6 has fantastic image quality. As always with Canon, it has really pleasing skin tones and fantastic colors. The low light capabilities of the R6 are equal to that of the competitors, so you're really not going to have much trouble there. Your max frames per second on this camera with an electronic shutter is 20 frames per second. With a mechanical shutter, you're getting 12 frames per second. So for sports and wildlife photographers, this will be more than enough. As a stills camera, the R6 is very capable. It has been suggested by many users so far that this is mostly good for still shooting, but the video side really hasn't given us all that we would hoped. On paper, the EOS R6 has some fantastic video features. You get Ultra HD 4K recording at 60 frames per second and 120 frames per second at 1080p. Now there is some cropping in some of those modes, but overall it's still a fantastic image. You get 10-bit 422 internal recording with the option to shoot in C-Log. Having that flexibility of 10-bit footage is super useful, and to not have to worry about external recorders for video is really handy. Shooting in C-Log is really handy. You get more dynamic range and more depth in color grading. You do get uncropped in-body stabilization in this camera, but you also get some options with your stabilization modes. You get digital stabilization with a 1.78 times crop, as well as enhanced digital stabilization with a 2.29 times crop. Now, the options for stabilization are really handy, but try to be careful with them as they do have a habit of sort of tracking your subject, so just be wary and see what works for you. You get Canon's dual pixel autofocus system, which is fantastic. There have been some reports of a bit of lackluster performance, but overall, the autofocus for me has been really solid. Well, you really couldn't ask for more on an enthusiast or professional level video camera. The reports, however, are true. At around 30 to 40 minutes when you're shooting 4K 10-bit video, you will overheat. In a professional environment, the overheating issue can be pretty detrimental. But as we all know, camera manufacturers have been releasing firmware updates to improve their cameras for a fair few years now, and I have no doubt that Canon will fix that in a future firmware update. So, does this camera live up to all the hype? Well, yeah, I think it does. Strictly photographers won't have any issue with the R6. It's got fantastic image quality and all the classic things that you love from Canon cameras. As a video camera, yes, it's very capable and it's going to be more than enough for most shooters. For a professional video shooter, it's not quite reliable enough yet. But again, future firmware updates will be released from Canon. So if you're still a little bit unsure about the R6 and want to talk about it further, then feel free to call us, email us, or talk to us on our website. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, then please go ahead and like it, share, and follow the page for more content. Happy shooting.